Hi, my name is Sylvia. I'm passionate about languages, English in particular. Welcome to my world of English. Dear all, I'm recording this episode out of sheer pleasure, and I'm hastening to explain to you why there is such an introduction to this episode, to the 32nd episode of the World of English podcast, and I will tell you why. So, you know the general idea that is behind this podcast. You know that these episodes are divided into two groups, and one group is devoted thoroughly to the language, the functionality of the language and how to study it. And I'm telling you, because I know that you're very much interested in it, I'm telling you about the structure of the language and all the bits are connected just with the very language. But the other group of podcasts, the other episodes that are there that have been recorded, they are devoted to various stories, films, books, current events, things that happened to myself personally. So you can get to know me a little bit better. And this episode is one of such episodes. I mean, it has come into being out of sheer pleasure, and I will tell you why. What is the title of this episode? So the title of this episode is The Crime. And here comes a question. So how is that even possible, that the crime is this sheer pleasure for myself? I will tell you why. I will explain. So I am this kind of person who really enjoys reading about crime, listening about crime. I do enjoy crime stories, old programs, different films. And of course, they have to be good. I mean, good in a way that they keep you interested. You are sitting on the edge of your seat. You don't know what is going to happen next. And I have this feeling that the subject of crime has become rather popular recently. And there are, of course, apart from crime books, there are many crime programs. Like, for instance, there are crime programs, crime broadcasts on the radio, and there are also crime podcasts. You know me, I'm the radio girl and I'm also the podcast girl. So whenever I have this chance to listen to a podcast, I do it with pleasure. And there is one podcast that really caught my attention, that I really listen to on a regular basis, and this is particularly about crime. It has its title in Polish, but the title that I'm going to present to you will be translated into English. So I think this is a nice trick. So you will know the immediate equivalent of the Polish title and you will know it in English. It is interesting because the title of the podcast I'm talking about, it refers to these 10 commandments of the church. So it is not that easy to translate it on your own if you want to. So I'm offering to you this translation. And the translation goes as follows: thou shalt not kill. Even if you do not understand the very phrase, I'm sure you understand the word kill and not kill, and then you can just keep on going. You can put all these things together so you will know what kind of podcast I'm talking about, and you know what kind of statement I'm talking about, sentence. And this is exactly the 5th commandment of the church: thou shalt not kill. And this podcast is run by the one and only Justyna Mazur. I will tell you why I enjoy it so much, apart from the very subject. And I enjoy it because I love her voice, and I love the way she keeps talking about crime. And she keeps talking about it in such a way that is just perfect, because on the one hand, you are afraid. So you kind of just suspect what is going to happen next, because she deals with different crimes. Some of these crimes, they have been revealed and the secret has been revealed. So the murderer, the wrongdoer has been caught, and they are very often in prison, for instance. But some of these crimes, they are still a mystery. They have remained a mystery. So when you listen to them, your hair stands on end. But this feeling that I have, this mixture of feelings, is both the feeling of being very much interested and engrossed and wanting to know what is going to happen next, but at the same time, you are afraid. And this feeling in English can be denoted with one single word, and this one single word would be anxiety. Many people ask me how to translate the word anxiety. That is the noun, and there comes another word, which is the adjective, and that would be anxious. And I think there is no immediate translation to Polish, really. I mean, we can describe this feeling. So I'm going to describe this feeling to you through very particular situations, through very real life situations. And I'm sure that some of you will find themselves in in these shoes, because I'm sure you've been there. We all have been there. So one feeling is this feeling that you have, especially it is the feeling that men have when they are walking down the corridor in hospital and they are waiting for the birth of the child. So this is the feeling they have. They are anxious. So they are very much interested. They want to get to know the baby. But at the same time, they are a little bit afraid because they don't know what is going to happen. And those of you, the learners, for instance, like the learners of English, they may have this feeling when they are waiting for their examination results, for instance. So they are anxious. So on the one hand, they want to know, really, like, tell me, have I passed or haven't I passed? That's the question. But on the other hand, sometimes you don't want actually to know the result because the result may not be what you actually wanted. So definitely that is the feeling that I have whenever I listen to this podcast. And that is the feeling of anxiety, and I feel anxious. I'd like to congratulate Justyna Mazur on what she's doing and how much she's growing in popularity, how much she's gaining popularity, because she's got this group of very avid followers and all the listeners who really praise her for what she is doing, because her podcast is, on the one hand, is just entertainment, because people just, like myself, they like listening to that. But at the same time, this podcast just offers some solutions or offers this new light to the crimes that have been committed. And sometimes, right, this new information, this new light may help in solving the crime. Here comes the question that I was asked many, many years ago when I was a student, and I was asked this question: is it possible? It was one in one of my literature classes, and we were discussing some books, some literature. I don't remember particularly what that was, but I do remember the question, and the question was like that: is it possible to present crime in a negative way? And of course, like, the instant answer in here would be, well, of course, crime is only negative, right? So you cannot present it in a positive way. But when we think about that for a longer period of time, when we give that the second thought, we might realize that actually it is a very good question, because this question actually tells us why people are so fascinated with crime. And of course, in literature and in films, in books, we know many, many characters who were criminals, who were wrongdoers, people who did a lot of bad things to other people. They committed crimes, they hurt other people, but they were so fascinating that they just collected this crowd of followers. And of course, I'm sure you also know these situations or such instances, that there are criminals who are in prison. They are serving their sentences in prison at the moment, for instance, and they receive a lot of letters from fans. So there you go. This is a situation. But coming back to this question, is it possible to present crime in a negative way? I'd like just to give you this example of, for instance, Bonnie and Clyde, right? Who were criminals, but they also attracted our attention, and they just became these figures of popular culture. Today, of course, because we need to connect the subject of the episode, the subject of the World of English podcast with English. So it has this purpose, right? It serves this purpose for all the people who are listening to this, because they would like to study, learn some English. And of course, we will connect it. I mean, the reason why I decided to record this episode and to devote this episode to that particular subject is that crime, in terms of the language, occupies a very important place in the English language. What I mean here is that this vocabulary that is there is very rich, and I think it is kind of richer even in Polish, but correct me if I'm wrong. Of course, I am responsible for the English language, so that's why I keep on talking about English. But definitely this vocabulary is very rich, and I think that might serve this purpose, that might help all the people who are, for instance, preparing right now. They are getting ready for this examination, be it like this first certificate examination or this advanced examination in English, because you can't really take this exam, or you do not stand much chance of passing it if you don't know that vocabulary. So this is this connection. I mean, connection between the sheer pleasure, and this is the phrase I use at the very beginning and the very purpose that the podcast is supposed to serve. So yes, there will be vocabulary. This vocabulary will be divided into two groups, like the petty crimes and the serious crimes. So right now I'm going to explain to you what a petty crime is. So petty crime is this little crime. And I wonder if you know what kind of crimes I chose. And that would also present myself as a person who decides which crimes are serious and which crimes are not. So wait a second, I will tell you that in a second. But before we get there, what I want to talk about is Scotland Yard also, because when we talk about crime, criminals and their fascinating lives, so to say, we cannot forget about the forces, the people who are there to protect us against criminals, and we are safe so we can walk down the street because there is somebody who is protecting us. And Scotland Yard, the reason why I introduced this police force is that there is a lot of misunderstanding behind the very name of Scotland Yard. Scotland Yard, as the very name suggests, many people, as they hear the name, they think it is associated with Scotland. Well, it is not associated with Scotland. It is associated with London. It is this police that operates at a certain area in London, but the name of this police came from the street where it was located, right? So that was the name, the initial name of the street where Scotland Yard was located. And right now, we just know that the name of the police force in that particular area is called Scotland Yard. And of course, Scotland Yard is just super famous because they have a lot of success, really. Like they are the greatest police force. They found a lot of criminals. They helped to solve very, very serious crimes. And for this reason, they are world famous. And here we are coming to the crime vocabulary, as promised. So there's division of petty crimes and serious crimes. So we are going to start with petty crimes. By the way, I want you to remember the word petty, which means just little or not that serious. And my personal division, my personal way of thinking when it comes to petty crime is this kind of crime that does not involve bloodshed. There you go. You've got another expression of bloodshed. So you can shed tears and you can shed blood. I wonder if you agree with me. So if you want to, you can, of course, text me. You can, of course, email me and tell me what you think, whether I chose the right crime. Some of these crimes are serious, actually, because they can have very serious consequences, but they do not involve or shouldn't involve bloodshed. And for this reason, they are here, they are on the list. And the first one that I chose is this perjury. This is pretty huge, I will tell you. But at the same time, let me repeat, I do believe that there is no bloodshed involved. Perjury is this act of lying in front of judges in the law courts. So if you go there and they ask you a question and you're supposed to answer, be honest, right, with your heart, but you are not, so you are giving this false testimony, it means that you are committing this crime of perjury. Then I've got the crime of smuggling and trafficking. Well, this is also huge, I have to tell you, but maybe there is no bloodshed involved, because if you smuggle, it means that you bring in illegal goods, so they travel like from one country to another, and you don't pay tax on that. You just buy them and from in one country, and then you want to take them to another country without telling the authorities that you actually have them. And trafficking sometimes involves smuggling, because trafficking means that you you buy and sell. This is the idea of commerce, right? You buy and then sell at a profit, but you buy and sell. You trade something illegal, so that would be drugs, that would be alcohol, and that would be people even. We are continuing with the letter T, because the next expression that I've got here is trespassing. Trespassing involves entering somebody's area without permission. So, for instance, there is this garden, there is this area that belongs to a private person, and very often there is this inscription, right? No trespassing, so you're not allowed to enter. Sometimes I think that teenagers even, they do it out of fun, so they commit this crime of trespassing out of fun, so they just want to enter some garden or some building just for fun. Of course, there is no fun there, right? So this is a crime. Let me say it once again out loud. Vandalism, the word is similar to a word to its equivalent in Polish. So vandalism, of course, involves destroying public property. Bigamy means that you have more than one wife or more than one husband. And in this country, I mean, in Poland, it is illegal. So from this legal perspective, you're not allowed to be married to more than one person. Hijacking. Hijacking is huge because we know the word and we associate hijacking with planes very often. Of course, you don't have to hijack only a plane. There can be other means of transport. And here I got really serious because sometimes this hijacking can have this political reason or political consequences, and sometimes people do it just to show something, just to present something, right? Just to catch the attention. And very often, when the plane is hijacked, then they can come back. The passengers, they can come back safely because there are these negotiations between different countries, or between the police forces. But sometimes, unfortunately, it can end up in bloodshed because the negotiation doesn't bring any effect, that is to no effect, and actually people can die. So, well, we need to be just aware of the fact, and we need to be serious here. Hooliganism is next to vandalism, right? So if you are a person, because that involves people here, if you are a person who destroys this public property, who behaves bad in public, who does obscene things that you are not supposed to do in public, it means that you are committing the crime of hooliganism. Joyride is connected in a way to trespassing, but to this part of this crime committed by teenagers, because if you joyride, that means that you just take somebody's car, you drive around, but it is not your car. Well, you actually do not steal it that much, but of course you just take it without permission and you just keep on driving. That happens, as I say, many times to teenagers who have just passed the driving test, but they don't have a car, and that's why they decide to borrow it. Well, funny as that. Pickpocketing, that's a crime that can be committed in public transport. So there is this person or people, a group of people sometimes who enter a bus or a train or whatever there is, right, that they enter, and they steal money from pockets of different people. And if you have ever experienced that, which I hope you haven't, or if you have ever seen any crime like that recorded on tape, which is possible, you will see that a pickpocket, so this is the person who is committing this crime, they are usually very, very smart, and very often you just don't know that you have just fallen prey to a pickpocket. Shoplifting is this crime of stealing from shops. So it's easy to remember to associate, because you enter a shop and you take some articles without paying. Speeding, here comes a question, is speeding a serious crime? And then you may judge me and will say, well, hey, so does it mean that you speed? Of course, I try not to speed. And speeding is a crime, so that means that you drive just beyond the speed limit, which is illegal. But that's the reason why I put it under the petty crime, is that there is no bloodshed very often. A couple of other expressions that are there is riot, and the word riot is very much associated with current events. Well, maybe this word is too big actually, but rioting means that people in large groups, they are marching across streets of different cities and they are protesting, they are showing that they are not happy with what is going on. Of course, riots can be violent, so they can actually have these very bad consequences, especially when there are police forces and there is this fight between people, local residents, and the police force. Another two expressions that I put on the list, they are connected with stealing, because stealing, and there is this one general name for it, like theft. So stealing is a rather popular crime, I would say, popular, unfortunately, in life, but also popular in the English language. So this is the expression that you have to know. how different crimes connected with stealing are called. And I've got mugging here, and I've got robbery. Robbery means that you can rob somebody of some property. Burglary, right? That means that you enter a building and you steal money, like from a bank or jewelry, but also from a private property. And mugging means that you attack somebody on the street just because you want to take something that belongs to them. So that was the first group. Of course, you don't have to agree with me. You may say, hey, well, I don't think that the crimes that you have presented today are actually petty crimes. So that would be interesting. You can tell me what you think. And the other group, let's say the more serious crimes, I mean, serious in a way that maybe they can involve not only one country, but other countries. They can get international. And there is bloodshed very, very often. So there is this human trafficking. I mean, the word trafficking was in the other group, but I added human, which means that you can unfortunately just, sell people, basically. There is murder, which I guess is easy to understand and follow. There is terrorism. Unfortunately, we know this expression because that is something that has been happening in the world for the last couple of times. There is poaching. I put the expression that is not so much connected with people. I mean, this is people who commit the crime. I mean, they are poachers, but this is connected with animals because poaching means that you hunt for animals and in an illegal way. And here I would like to draw your attention to my podcast, I mean, some of the other episodes, because I was talking about poaching. I mean, particularly not myself, but it was the other person. I hope you remember that there was this one episode in which there was conducted an interview. And this interview was conducted with Ken Ramirez. And Ken Ramirez was talking about this crime of poaching, where these groups of people, they hunt for animals because, for instance, for elephants, and they hunt for their tusk because they want to get that and sell that at a profit. And this is a very, very difficult issue because the people who do that, the poachers, they say that they do that because they want to support their families, and without doing that, they will simply die. The families will not survive. But of course, it is totally illegal. It is just the brutality of life, because you just kill innocent animals. And if you do poaching in large numbers, sorry for the expression, but it is what it is. So if you do that, then you just risk making some species extinct, that they become extinct because you just kill them in large numbers. Drunk driving. This is another expression that I put here, and some people may say, well, this is not killing anybody like in their face, but drunk driving is very, very serious, and we should never ever even think about that, because drunk driving involves killing people. I mean, this is what it can end up in or end up with. And whenever there is this alcohol, and whenever we are under the influence of alcohol, driving under the influence, that's another expression here. Well, definitely we shouldn't drive at all. So that's why it is, to my mind, and I guess you agree, this is a very serious crime. The very last crime that I put here, it is genocide. And genocide is the most serious crimes, to my mind, out of all the crimes that are there, because it means killing people in large numbers, and you do it very often for political reasons. And this is what happens when there is this war, when there are different countries that are at war with one another and they keep on fighting. This is a brutality. This is complete brutality, I would say, and that's why I wanted to put it as the very last one, because I do believe you will remember that. You remember the name, the genocide, the name of the crime, and I just hope that that kind of crime will not happen in the world again. There you go. So we started with criminal stories, we started with podcasting, we started with talking about crime, and then we finished with different vocabulary that you need to know. I mean, this is really this intermediate vocabulary that you need to know in order to, if you want to, take exams in English. And if there is anybody in here who is studying for such an exam, please just listen to the podcast again and again and try to remember what I have said with explanation of different crimes. And also don't forget that you get this transcript and translation to every episode. So you will get a transcript and translation to this episode. And of course, a glossary. So it makes it all that easy to study the language, but also to get a bit of entertainment. I hope it is the way you feel. So thank you so much for listening to me. Cheers.